अस्सलाम वालेकुम, दिस अज़हर हुसैन फ्रॉम कश्मीर डिस्पैच। और आज हमारे साथ एक ख़ास मेहमान यहाँ पर मौजूद है एंड ही हैज़ बीन द चेयरपर्सन ऑफ नेशनल कमीशन फॉर माइनॉरिटीज़ एंड बिसाइड्स दैट ही हैज़ बीन द फर्स्ट चीफ इंफॉर्मेशन कमिश्नर ऑफ इंडिया। और उसके अलावा वो ऑफिसर भी रह चुके हैं इंडियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सर्विसेज के, और ही हैज़ बीन सेक्रेटरी टू गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इन द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ पंचायत राज। और ख़ास तौर पे जो कश्मीर के साथ उनका ताल्लुक़ रहा है, ही हैज़ बीन द डिविजनल कमिश्नर ऑफ कश्मीर फ्रॉम 1991 to 1993 एंड वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट सर वजाहत हबीबुल्लाह साहब, जो आज हमारे पास यहाँ पे मौजूद है। अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम सलाम।
तो सर, कुछ सवालात और उनके जवाबात आपसे हम ज़रूर लेंगे आज, और उसमें सबसे पहला जो सवाल है, कैसे आप देखते हैं कि क्या सिचुएशन तब्दील हो चुकी है आफ्टर पोस्ट अगस्त, जो 2019 में एब्रोगेशन ऑफ आर्टिकल हमने देखा, तो क्या चीज़ें चेंज हुई हैं?
Well, obviously the situation has drastically changed, क्योंकि इसमें उसके बाद काफ़ी हमारे कश्मीर के जो यहाँ के रहने वाले हैं उनके साथ रब्ता रहा है। हम आए हुए हैं, लोगों से मिलते भी हैं, तो उसमें काफ़ी नाराज़गी है लोगों में कि उनसे पूछे बगैर जो उनकी आईनी हैसियत थी, जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पोजीशन था जम्मू एंड कश्मीर का, इस प्लेस इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया अंडर आर्टिकल 370, that has been changed without any consultation with them, and the manner in which it has been changed has led to a feeling of uncertainty and also resentment.
So what's your take on the situation in Kashmir about development and developmental projects that have been taken into consideration, as the central government says that the situation has improved after the abrogation of Article 370? What's your take on that?
Well, I don't know in what way it has improved. I have been visiting Kashmir regularly before, of course, the abrogation, after the abrogation, several times, but not, of course, after the lockdown. This is my first visit after the lockdown. But after the abrogation, of course, there was widespread anger and resentment, and at present there is a feeling of fear and uncertainty. This has, of course, been accentuated by all the restrictions of COVID and so forth. But then what one often hears is a quest for identity, that people feel that they have lost their identity as Kashmiris, as Indians, but as Kashmiris in India. So this is the situation so far as I can perceive it.
What is the thing over demoting an erstwhile state of J&K to a union territory centrally, not talking about the Kashmiris, but at the center? What do you think? Was it a wise decision?
ये कभी पहले हुआ नहीं है. It is the first time it has ever happened. Or when before you ask whether it's a wise decision or not, I would say कि पहले तो इसको देखना है, इसकी कानूनी हैसियत क्या है? What is the constitutional position? It has never been done before, so its constitutional position is very much in question. The matter is before the Supreme Court. I would, of course, have been happier, and I think many people would have been happier, if the legal position had been clarified by the Supreme Court a little earlier, but it has not, and so we must await that. But it has, as I said, never happened before. What has happened before is that union territories have been upgraded to statehood. But it has never happened that that the statehood has been taken from a state and it's been converted into not one but two union territories. Now we see that the same thing has been done with Delhi. I mean, Delhi continues to be a union territory, but the powers of the union vested in the union territory, instead of being enhanced, have been reduced. Now this is a matter that is going to lead to a constitutional debate.
There's another thing which is of concern. The government of India has been engaging with the separatists in past, and we have seen the examples in 2016 and 2008 when we can say off the channel these interlocutors or track 2 diplomats, they came to Kashmir and they even knocked the door of Gilani Saab. So what's the current position of the government on the separatists? Are separatists any relevant now in Kashmir politics?
Well, now when you mention separatists, you have to be a little careful about how you use that term. The term is usually used for the Hurriyat Conference. Now, the Hurriyat Conference, is it separatist? I have, of course, been involved with discussions with the Hurriyat Conference. I was then part of the teams which engaged in consultations with them in the time of Dr. Manmohan Singh when he was Prime Minister, earlier when Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister. But there's a certain thing which is, the Hurriyat Conference are people who've questioned the legality of India's accession to, of J&K's accession to India. लेकिन इसके अलावा ऐसे भी लोग हैं जो who are separatists in sentiment. So the question is कि has the separatist sentiment gone? My answer is no. Unfortunately, that has not gone. We have not succeeded in overcoming that. जहाँ तक की जो हैसियत है हुर्रियत कॉन्फ्रेंस की, इसमें तो बहस हो सकती है कि अब उनकी कोई रेलेवेंस है कि नहीं है.
Because there was, every time we had a turmoil in Kashmir, we had the central leadership calling that every stakeholder from Kashmir will be taken onto the table and he will be talked with. But that kind of narrative, we find it very much fading away now.
अब नहीं है, ऐसी बात नहीं हो रही है. ऐसी बात नहीं है कि हम सेपरेटिस्ट के साथ भी बात करने के लिए, अब किसी के साथ बात करने की there's no talk of this dialogue within the state of J&K also, let alone with the separatists. Now the main dialogue is really not the dialogue, but the debate revolves around the restoration of Article 370, or whether it can be done, the restoration of democratic norms, the restoration of statehood. These are the various things that are being discussed. So in that context, the issue of the state becoming separating from India, this is not an issue that is even being talked about, let alone an issue that is being brought on a discussion. So yes, you may say that has now become an irrelevant issue. But even the issue of the relationship of J&K with the rest of the country, that is now has that become an irrelevant issue? That is a question that can also be raised.
Well, Kashmir has always been a bone of contention between India and Pakistan. That left aside, so there has been a debate, and as in the parliament, when the abrogation of Article 370 took place, it was said that the abrogation of Article 370 is actually, it was dubbed as, it is the emancipation of the people of Jammu and Kashmir against the laws that were binding them into mediocrity. Has that thing been visible on the ground?
I don't know how it could be binding them into mediocrity. The Kashmiri people have been always outstanding and have proved their outstanding merit. They have been, they've demonstrated it all over the place, in entering the civil services or in other respects. So I think when you compare the achievements of the people of J&K with those of any other state in the country, the J&K people have been outstanding. There was a period of time when the government of India was virtually run by people with their origins in Kashmir. So that, of course, cannot be said. But when you talk about the emancipation of people from bondage or whatever, then the people have to be asked, you're a Kashmiri, so you tell me, why are you asking me?
Okay, what about the track to diplomacy? Because whenever we had any kind of turmoil in Kashmir, whether it be 2008, 2010 or 2016, so we'll see from Delhi, there were diplomats, there were politicians, and they would fly into Kashmir and try to cool down the situation. So is that track to diplomacy still relevant?
Well, I don't know, because first there has to be a dialogue re-established. And that has not happened. Now we are seeing that the government of India and the government of Pakistan are agreeing to open a dialogue. The track to diplomacy can only be supportive of an overall dialogue. And until that is started, it would be unwise to say that well now we should go for track 2 or not. मैं भी खुद उसके साथ मेरी वाबस्तगी रही है track 2 diplomacy के साथ. It has its relevance at its time. It gave feedback, a positive feedback to government on many occasions. लेकिन इस वक्त उसकी क्या रेलेवेंस है और क्या इम्पोर्टेंस है ये तो वो बता सकते हैं who are actually engaged in the negotiations or in the diplomacy, which I am not.
Okay, that thing said, you said you were a part of that track to diplomacy once upon a time. So there have been various delegations who have come to Kashmir, whether it be Ramjit Malani or Yashwant Sinha or even the interlocutors who had been deputed here. So they have given their reports. What has come out of those reports?
No, the reports तो वो तो एक तो reports some people these people have been coming on their own initiative like Ramjit Malani and others. So then they have presented their reports to government and placed it in the public domain. They've had some effect on government policy. But the matter which you're referring to, I think, is the initiative taken by Dr. Manmohan Singh in having interlocutors appointed, and then their report, which went to the government of India. Now, that report was then shared with the state government. At that time, it was an elected state government, and then it was kept aside for further action in the future. I am not aware of any action taken thereafter, because I myself, of course, was no longer serving in the state.
So, lastly, I would like to ask this very question. In this time, in Kashmir, we see that many new political parties are emerging out, and various other political parties who were actually dormant, now they are getting some leaders from other parties into it, and there is a relaunching of those very parties. So how do you see that? Is this the political awareness or some kind of enlightenment that is happening here?
I don't know if you can call it enlightenment, क्योंकि ऐसा तो दुनिया भर में, हिंदुस्तान भर में होता रहता है. So the same thing is happening here, which happens in this electoral political system which we have all over the country. So sorry, my phone is. This kind of activity is there. Now, whether it is the development is positive or not, is not for me to say. ये तो कश्मीर के लोगों को कहना है. ये तो this is the local politics of J&K. हाँ, अब ये मौका है कि बाकी हिंदुस्तान से भी लोग आएं और हिस्सेदार अगर बनना चाहते हैं यहाँ के पॉलिटिक्स में, तो यहाँ आके हाथ बटाएं.
So, one thing again which popped in my mind, your visit to Kashmir in this very point of time, is it having some kind of political relevance?
No, it's only a learning experience so far as I'm concerned. I haven't been here for a long time. I have, as I said, been coming regularly, meeting people, seeing how I can support where support is needed, seeing where I can advise where advice is needed. क्योंकि मेरा लंबा पुराना तजुर्बा है और मेरा कश्मीर के लोगों के साथ मोहब्बत रही है और अब भी है.
शुक्रिया वजाहत हबीबुल्ला साहब हमारे साथ बात करने के लिए. कश्मीर डिस्पैच से अज़हर हुसैन, वजाहत हबीबुल्ला साहब हमारे साथ हैं और इंशाअल्लाह ताला अगली नशिस्त में आपसे फिर मुलाकात होगी. अस्सलाम वालेकुम.